Hello, you've just stepped into Veloran, a place for minds that wander and wonder. If these ideas speak to you, a like and a subscribe would mean the world. You sit there in that softly lit room, couch beneath you, the quiet hum of the clock on the wall. Across from you, your therapist speaks with warmth, with training, with assurance. You're here for your anxiety, and the tool they offer is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, a method meant to reshape your thoughts, untangle distortions, and bring clarity to the chaos inside your mind. On the surface, it sounds practical, empowering even. You tell yourself, I can do this. I can think differently. I can change my reality. But something inside you doesn't shift. Session after session, worksheet after worksheet, you challenge your thoughts, list your evidence, reframe your beliefs. And yet the anxiety lingers. The tightness in your chest, the restless nights, the gnawing fear that something, somewhere, remains unresolved. And slowly, a darker thought creeps in. What if my therapist is wrong? What if this isn't the way out? Most people won't dare say this aloud. To question therapy is to risk blame, to risk hearing, you're resisting, you're not trying hard enough, you must trust the process. But what if the process itself is flawed? Not for everyone, but for you? You see, CBT was built on the idea that thoughts shape emotions, and by changing the thought, you can change the feeling. But Søren Kierkegaard once observed that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, a deep, existential state that arises not merely from faulty thinking, but from the very condition of being human. CBT, for all its structure and logic, often treats anxiety like a faulty algorithm. It seeks to patch the code, yet the code is written in the language of your life, your losses, your traumas, your unspoken fears of meaninglessness. When your therapist asks you to list irrational beliefs, they may miss that your anxiety is not a distortion but a signal, a painful truth about your unmet needs, your fractured relationships, your unspeakable grief. CBT can become a form of gaslighting, though unintentional. You're taught that your feelings stem from false thoughts, when often those feelings speak of wounds too deep to be silenced by logic. Consider this. If you were abandoned as a child, your fear of abandonment is not irrational. If you were betrayed, your hypervigilance is not a distortion. To call it so is to deny the intelligence of your suffering. You know it in your bones. These are not mere thoughts. They are memories, lived experiences encoded in your body. And here lies the dark reality. CBT may offer coping, but it can also invalidate the root of your pain. You walk out of session doubting yourself more. You begin to wonder, why can't I correct these thoughts? Why do I fail at this method that seems to help others? Maybe I'm broken after all. But you are not broken. You are human. And human suffering runs deeper than cognition. Kierkegaard taught that despair arises when the self refuses to become itself. When we deny our deepest truths, when we try to fix ourselves through external techniques rather than inner reckoning. CBT in its mechanical form often bypasses this reckoning. It offers skills but not meaning, tools but not understanding. You may learn to reframe but never to grieve. You may silence the symptom while the soul continues to ache in the shadows. And what of the therapist? They may not see this. They are trained in the manual, the evidence-based approach. The structure gives them comfort. And when you don't progress, they may subtly blame your non-compliance, your unconscious resistance. Rarely do they ask, is the method itself insufficient for this person, at this moment, in this life? You leave the room with homework in hand, but a deeper loneliness inside. A sense that something vital is being missed. You start to mistrust your own intuition, thinking, maybe I am the problem. But you are not. Sometimes the problem is the frame itself. CBT shines for surface-level anxiety, performance nerves, mild phobias, negative self-talk. But when your anxiety springs from existential terror, from complex trauma, from deep identity wounds, no worksheet can touch it. No thought record can rewrite your existential condition. Anxiety in these cases is not a cognitive error. It is a cry from the depths of your being. To reduce it to faulty thinking is to flatten the human experience, to betray the depth of your own soul. The truth is, you might need a different path, one where your feelings are honored, not pathologized, where your suffering is seen, not corrected, where your history is held with reverence, not minimized to distortions. Perhaps what you seek is not a method to fix you, but a space to find you. Not CBT, but deep listening. Not symptom reduction, but soul retrieval. Kierkegaard knew that anxiety was a gateway, not a malfunction, that to sit with it, to understand its message, was the path toward becoming whole. And sometimes, what you need most is not to fight your thoughts, but to embrace your truths. If your therapist cannot meet you there, it is not your failure. It is the limitation of the frame they've been trained in, and it is okay to seek more, to trust that your suffering holds wisdom beyond technique. You do not need to battle yourself with thought corrections. You need to be witnessed, understood, loved, not despite your anxiety, but within it. The dark reality is this: sometimes, therapy that insists on changing you can leave you feeling more lost, more alone, and the quiet thought that maybe they're wrong is not dangerous. It is sane. It is wise. Trust that voice inside, the one that knows your story cannot be reduced to thought distortions, that your pain deserves more than techniques, that you, in all your complexity, need more than a cognitive fix. You need healing that meets you where you are, and sometimes that means daring to question the method itself. That is not resistance, that is self-respect, that is courage. Because your anxiety is not an enemy, it is a messenger, and the first step toward healing is listening to what it longs to tell you. You may notice that in these sessions something subtle happens. You begin editing yourself. You tell the therapist what they expect to hear, because deep down you sense that your raw, unfiltered truth won't fit into the framework. You stop mentioning the parts of your experience that don't sound irrational. You filter your pain through the language of cognition, stripping it of the nuance and depth that made it yours. And in doing so, a quiet estrangement grows between your inner world and the therapy room. The place that was meant to hold your wholeness now holds only the sanitized fragments. That ache you carry, it deepens. At night, when the worksheets are set aside and the room is dark, you feel it. That unresolved weight pressing on your chest. No thought record touches it. No cognitive reframe soothes it. Because the real wound is not in your thinking, it is in your being, in your history, in your longing for a place where your sorrow and your joy can coexist without being dissected. Kierkegaard wrote of the despair of not being allowed to be oneself, and this is the danger. When therapy reduces you to thought distortions, you are not being met as a whole human. You are being treated as a problem to be fixed. And that is its own form of quiet despair. But beneath that despair is still a voice, small, tired, but alive. A voice that says, there must be more than this. I am more than this method. My pain deserves more than cognitive tricks. I am not irrational. I am unheard. That voice is not resistance. It is your deepest wisdom. It is the part of you that remembers what it means to be fully human, not a collection of faulty thoughts, but a life, a story, a heart that longs to be understood, not corrected. And sometimes the truest healing begins not with another worksheet, but with listening, deeply, to that voice you almost forgot you had.